Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome everybody to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to grow your business and take it to the next level. I'm very excited to have Andrea Menard on as my guest, and she has a tremendous background. So if you will indulge me, I'm going to give you a lot of information today. Andrea Menard is an accomplished Métis, no, I said it wrong.
Métis.
Métis singer, songwriter, actor, speaker, wellness trainer, and a founder of the Sacred Feminine Learning Lodge. As seen on USA Today, Andrea is an influencer in feminine leadership and was named one of the Women Executive Network's, WXN, Canada's most powerful women top 100 award winner in 2020. An advocate for rematriation and reconciliation, Andrea trains women to lead like a goddess and help all gendered people to reclaim and embody the qualities of the sacred feminine. She is also the author of the Seeds from the Sacred Feminine Wisdom cards, which we'll talk about today. And they're going to be released with Mango Publishing on May 9th, 2023. So if you're watching a replay of this, you can go ahead and get those cards. If you're just watching this, it's just going to be coming out. One of the all-star cast of the new hits CTV series, Sullivan's Crossing, Andrea is a 5-time Gemini-nominated actress, a 15-time Music Award winner, and she was named ACTRA National Women of the Year in 2021. Andrea has released 5 award-winning albums, including, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm sorry, Métis?
Correct.
Language album, a symphony show, 2 television programs, and her TEDx talk called Silent No More. She reached over 128,000 views. She's performed for royalty, prime ministers, governor generals, residential school survivors, families of the missing and murdered Indigenous women, and even sang her song Peace to the world's NATO generals. I love your background. She's born in Manitoba, and Andrea is a proud member of the Métis. Métis. I'm going to just put a spelling on that. Métis Nation of Canada. Her Métis family originates from St. Laurent, Manitoba, Treaty 1, and then settled in the Inner Lakes region of Treaty 2 territory. Andrea carries the name Scute.
Shkotekwe.
Oh, Scuteque.
Shkotekwe.
Scuteque.
That's hard.
I know.
You should have let me say that part. Let me just say it.
She's going to say it anytime. You're going to say the next word too, which means
that
fire
too,
women in
Anishinaabe.
Oh my goodness.
And the Cree Nehiawan name, Notagoyutin, which means grandmother wind. I carry these 2 names.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Such beautiful sounding. And you say it so well. As I said, We just want to really congratulate her for her 2 awards that she had in 2021 as that National Woman of the Year. So excellent. I wanted to have the theme today be the rise of the sacred feminine, which you heard me mention a few times now in my opening. And so please welcome Andrea Menard. Oh,
Thanks
Andrea,
for having me, Vicki.
like shout out to you. What a great bio. You did not, you are not wasting your life on things that aren't important. I just love everything you're doing.
Oh my goodness, that was my big bio. I'm going, oh my.
Yeah, she gave it all, but I think it sometimes is good to really get to for people to hear this person that's going to be speaking is someone that you should listen to. And we definitely should listen to you. I normally ask you, where do you live? But I've told that several times now in Manitoba.
Well, actually, I don't know that had you asked, I would have done this is how I introduced myself. Hello, Tanchi, Kiawao, Andrea Menard, Dishnika Shon. My name is Andrea Menard. I'm a proud Métis woman from Treaty 1 territory and the homeland of the Métis, but currently living in the unceded traditional territory of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam people, also known as Vancouver. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, I love Vancouver too.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. So the bio gave us so many things to talk about of what you have accomplished in the last few years, but it really talked about the last few years. And we know that your life probably had a few things, little different paths in the journey to where you are today. So I'd like for you to just spend some time talking about your background of where you started and how you navigated to where you are today.
Okay. Well, Métis girl, grew up a lot across the prairie provinces in Canada, which are Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta, which is also the Métis homeland. In Canada, there are 3 different Indigenous groups. So in the US, where you are, and maybe your listeners, you consider Indigenous people from your land called Native Americans. Well, in Canada, we consider ourselves Indigenous, but there are 3 different populations of Indigenous people. We have the Inuit, who are from up north, in the winters, in the northern part of Canada. And we have First Nations people, which are the people who are here traditionally on the lands, which is what you would probably refer to as Native American. But we also have Métis people, is what I am. I am a Métis person. I'm a Michif person. And Métis are a mixed Indigenous peoples. We were buffalo hunters, but we were also European and First Nations. So we were the first people born of this land of the 2 nations. And we were left alone long enough before more settlers and colonizing happened across the prairie. So we were the first peoples that took the best of both cultures, and we created our own cultural identity, our own language, and our own governance system. So that is just a little bit of background of who I am. And I would say that I entered this world to be a performer of some kind. My gifts that I've been given, I'm a singer and a storyteller, and however that manifests, whether it's in film and TV or in music or in speaking or storytelling, I follow where I'm led next by the grandmothers. And I always point to the grandmothers are my spirit helpers that are really bossy, and they and they tend to, show me, or, it's like my intuition shows me the next path I'm supposed to take. So I started out as an actor and a singer very strongly at the same time. So you'll see that my bio has a lot of that work, and I'm currently doing it right now. I'm currently in a new TV series and in a new play and a new album out. So all these things are current. But the part of me that has developed over the last, say, 7-8 years, and especially over COVID, was the writer and the speaker. So if you look at me, you may have seen I don't think I have anything nearby, but a symbol of the medicine wheel that seems to be a very common symbol that people represent within, you know, attach that meaning to Indigenous people's way of life and our way of looking at the world. So if you think of me as a medicine wheel, I think of myself as a medicine wheel. I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm a writer, and I'm a messenger of some sort, whether that's a speaker or a trainer.
Mhm.
So that's a
So,
little bit about my background.
yeah, and I like the way that, you know, it all kind of interacts with each other. And when I talk about and work with people to be better speakers, I often have them think and look up to music, because I think that makes you realize how important vocal variety and pauses and emphasis on certain words can make a song better, and therefore it would make a speech better. So naturally, but you bring a whole different level by having your heritage be part of what your message is.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about what exactly is the rise of the sacred feminine.
Good question. The rise of the sacred feminine is the era we have just begun. We are seeing all of these changes on the planet, and it seems to be, you know, tumultuous, but it's actually bringing us towards becoming a more balanced people. So it may look incredibly chaotic, but according to my elders, who I first heard that term from back in 2012, when there was a gathering of elders taking place on the Sagin First Nation in the Turtle Lodge, led by the late elder Dave Kirshane, and a gathering of elders from all across Turtle Island, which is North America. These elders gathered together to come together to send a message to the wider population, to let people know the wisdom and what the Indigenous perception of what was going on, our wisdom, we're wanting to share that wisdom to the world. And one of the things, they said many incredibly wise things, but one of the things that stood out to me in their declaration of things they wanted to share was, we are now in the time of the rise of the sacred feminine. And that was like an explosion that went off in my head, because I'd been hearing my elders and people who were going into ceremony and coming out of ceremony with messages from the spirit realm. And a lot of these different people over the 90s and early 2000s, they were saying, I was told it's the time of woman, or I was told it's the time of, you know, the return of the circle, or I'm told that it's time of Mother Earth, you know. So there's all these feminine ways of looking at it. But until he said the rise of the sacred feminine, it's like everything clicked. And that meant that everything, because in our world right now, we live in a very masculine oriented world.
We do.
And it's out of balance. There's nothing inherently wrong with beautiful, sacred masculine qualities like drive, single focus, competition, conquering, action. All of those things are good in and of itself. But when they are taking over and starting to ignore or value the tempering aspect of the feminine, then we get out of balance, which is what we are in right now. So here we are in this overly masculine oriented world, and the sacred feminine qualities of life, and that would be intuition, emotional expression, nurturing, stillness, listening, receiving, reciprocity, receptivity. All of those things are considered weak in our society. And that's a very dangerous place to be in. So if you think of all of life having those two qualities, every human being has those two qualities. I mean, most women today are in the industries or in the systems that work. We're successful in those industries because we've been utilizing our masculine aspects of life to succeed. So it's not like and men who are home parenting are there using their feminine skills, right? So we all have both. It just depends on what we express at the moment. So at large, society is not that keen on sitting still, on listening,
Right.
on feeling, on listening to going into ceremony, listening to the ancestors, all of those things. We're not good at that. And of course, our life has been suffering. So according to the elders, the rise of the sacred feminine means that we are going to be shifting this imbalance. We're going to be coming back into balance by learning individually how to value our own sacred feminine natures, how to value the earth, how to value slowing down, listening, receiving, reciprocity. And that's a hopeful thing. But we're at the beginning stages, so it looks really bad right now. But all of those voices that have been left out of the systems, all of the voices that have been devalued because they either represent the sacred feminine or they are the sacred feminine. The voice of women is rising. The voice of Indigenous people, earth-based people are rising. The voice of Black communities who are earth-based people rising. The people of color, people, two-spirited, trans and non-binary people's voice rising because they are great teachers for these times. We have the voice of Mother Earth rising, the voice of the animals, the voice of emotional expression, and one that people don't necessarily think about is the voice of nurturing men are rising to the surface because they have been just as brutalized as women.
Right.
So many things that have been devalued in life are returning to the circle in a big way with loud voices. And, sometimes, when we return to the circle, when we've had no voice, we come in screaming.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. That's all right, because it has to balance out. We've got to find room for all of these voices that have been not heard for a long time. So that's the rise of the sacred feminine.
See, this is why I knew I had to have you on, because it's so, we're so aligned with why I'm doing what I'm doing now at 65 is because I just think that it's time that we do have that balance that, for me, most of my career, what was missing was that the confidence, because I was trying to be more male and not letting my gut and my feminine skills and gifts be able to have me reach and be a better leader. And when I stopped doing that, my life changed.
Yep.
And so I'm all about having people to be able to share the word about how it is that as a woman, you can be the one that changes the world. You truly can.
Yeah. I also think all human beings can change the world if they move in a balanced way, if they find and access the parts of themselves that have been, quiet. And of course, the leaderships that moving into the future, the leadership that we're going to look to are the ones who are balanced, the nurturing and strong leadership, protective and listening and receiving. We have a long balance is the key. Balance, beautiful balance.
Well, if you think of it, in any situation that you have, you need both sides of that coin to really be able to be successful, to really accomplish the things that you need to accomplish. So you talked a little bit about your cards. We see them in your background over there. Why are these called the seeds from the sacred feminine and not the seeds from Indigenous women?
Wisdom. Yeah.
Wisdom.
Yeah, I would say that's a great question, because the seeds from the sacred feminine, this deck of cards is a deck of Métis, created by two Métis women. I'm a Métis woman, and the artist that you see, Leah Dorian, is a Métis woman as well. So we have a specific outlook in the world. We're, as Indigenous people, we have a different way of looking at the world than mainstream population, Western population. We are land-based people. We believe that the earth is a sentient being, that she's alive, and that we are connected to all of the relatives that are alive too, and that we are not any more special or greater than the mosquito. We are connected to all things, and that includes the star beings, the stars, the planets, as well as, you know, the waters of life. We're connected to everything, and we are responsible for wellness. By being well ourselves, is that we bring wellness to the whole. And so we believe, Leah and I believe, and many Indigenous people believe, that this is missing in the wider culture, which is why there's such a sickness of consumerism and gluttony, you know, in this society, because it is missing the very center point of what Indigenous people believe, which is that we are responsible for the wellness of all. We individually have a responsibility to be the caretakers of the planet, because what harms us what harms the world harms us. What harms another harms me. So when we think of the world that way, we come to life in a more responsible way. We have respect and honor for the living beings around us. And so I wanted that knowledge, that perspective, to come to, you know, everyday people, because I think this world is going to change by individual people, one at a time, one heart, one mind, heart, over and over, one person waking up to their own sense of wonderful responsibility. It's not a burden. It's a beautiful way of being, where you come to life as an act of service. How can I bring my gifts to the world to make this world a better place for the betterment of all? How can I bring my gifts to the world? And so this deck of cards was my way of sharing that view, that way of looking at the world with others, because it has, for people who are not familiar with cards, I'll just pull a few.
I was just going to ask you that. Could you share, how do we use your cards?
Yeah, so there are, you know, different beautiful artwork from my Métis sister, Leah Dorian. Like, just look at those beautiful paintings. For those who are just listening to the podcast and not seeing this, I'm showing you the incredible artwork by Leah Dorian. And we share, so I'll back up a bit. So we share a belief and a communication system with our grandmothers in the spirit realm. So like we say, you know, other people may call it their muse or angels or ancestors, but we call them the grandmothers, and we both work with them separately. And I knew that when this deck of cards was coming into existence, I knew that the grandmothers were whispering to me, and I knew that I wanted Leah to work, because she works with the grandmothers through painting. We just look through different mediums. So everything that I say, everything that I teach in the deck, in the booklet, is all represented in her paintings. And they came together like a hand in glove. So for those who've never experienced cards or know what to do or how to use them, cards are a way of talking to your spirit, or letting the grandmothers guide you with information about how to handle a situation or how to approach the day. If you want, like, what would be my highest joy today? What can I do to bring pleasure to my life? What can I do today to walk in a more gently way on the planet? And then you can just pick a card and see what the grandmothers pull, because there's no mistakes in picking a card. It's probably for you. So other people call them oracle cards. I wouldn't necessarily call them oracle cards for me. That's not our term, but we would say wisdom cards, or messages, medicine messages for you to walk in a better way.
And I was telling you, I have another deck of cards that I use. And as you said, I just randomly pull it out. And it's amazing how many times what the words on that card say are what I needed to hear.
Absolutely. Because there's some people are not necessarily listening, because my grandmothers are bossy. They practically shout in my ear, but other people don't necessarily have that relationship. I think everyone has that. They have the potential, that just don't know how it's a whisper. It's a thing, but to me, they're loud. but other people may not have that skill yet. And so a card coming at them is like their ancestors saying, hey, good, she's listening, or he's listening, or they're listening. Let's this is what we want her to know, or them to know today.
Yeah, for sure. So, as a performer with a long history in the film and television and music, what made you enter the wellness industry?
Oh, yeah. Well, I would say that something new was trying to be born. You know, the teacher in me and the speaker in me, something was like the grandmothers were leading me in that direction. Because I've been a speaker my whole life, but it's different as a celebrity speaking or a speaker that comes with a message that other people come to hear your message, not you as a celebrity necessarily. So, for the last 7 years, something was trying to be born, and it centered around my TEDx talk. It centered around things, and I was trying to find what that center point was. And of course, I didn't have the words yet as a facilitator for the rise of the sacred feminine. That's the center point of my medicine wheel, but I didn't have that about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and I was searching for it. I was trying to say, what is it that is the cohesion that brings all of those parts of me together? If you were to, scratch the surface, who am I at the core? And I found that term, after listening to the elders, and I'm a facilitator of the rise of the sacred feminine. And so then I felt free to be whoever I needed to be next. So the actor could get quiet for a while, and they did. My acting and singing sort of got quiet for a while, and I thought, oh, they're always busy. So what's happening next? And that's when I got the idea for the cards. That's when the TEDx came. That's when I started developing more training and courses. And then the pandemic hit and everything, I'm in the industry that died first. Everything entertainment, all of my gigs got canceled within a month. My whole year's worth of work, my speaking engagements died. Everything just left. And so I am a creator at heart. And I knew, once I grieved, because I'm very good at listening to what's happening right now. And I was in pain, like many people were, but I was pretty immediate at getting to it. Like I felt it all immediately. And then I was clean. And then I was surrendering. I'm like, okay, but other people weren't. And I started to recognize that I needed to help. And so the private part of me would not necessarily have gone online, with that, because that was the teacher part of me hadn't really been born yet. So I started holding circles and sacred ceremonies and sacred circles online for people, doing some of my work, and it was helping people. It was like my new moon ceremony. I was doing it weekly during those first months of COVID because people were really struggling, and they would come, almost like, their hands clenched and their eyebrows raised up in panic. And it was working and it was helping people. And so I got over my nervousness or my shyness about it. And I just started saying, okay, if this is what's needed by, the grandmothers are pushing me towards this because this is what people need right now, then that's what I'm going to create. And I created courses, and this deck of cards came into being and got picked up by Mango Publishing. And my Lead Like a Goddess was the only one that has not been picked up because it's a live event. I've been wanting that to be live, and it hasn't been yet. But all the other stuff that I do, reclaiming the 4 goddesses, which is reclaiming the earth woman, fire woman, air woman, and water woman, and the matriarchs in training, which is for Indigenous people, women in particular, and those who identify as women. But honoring the 4 sacred bodies, all of these stuff that come from my way of looking at the world. I recognize that all of those things were just as creative as creating an album or creating a play or creating something from my performer part. And they were all deeply satisfying as well. So it was exciting to recognize that I wasn't being I wasn't shooting off in another direction. They were all still a part of who I am at the core. And I'm always wanting to be of service. Everything I do, I want it to uplift humanity in some way. I want it to bring this world to a better understanding of ourselves. And this is what has happened, especially over COVID. And so now that COVID is over and all the industries have picked up, I'm performing again. I'm in a new television series and in a new play. I have a new album. So it's sort of like, I thought that was all leaving because I went, oh, well, maybe I'm in a wellness trainer now. Maybe that's who I am. But no, I'm all for, and I always will be the medicine wheel. And I'm hoping to be of service in whatever way I'm being called to.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about what Silent No More, that TED Talk, covered.
Well, the title itself, Silent No More, using your voice to end violence against women is important because it's all about voice. It's about ending violence. And it's me sharing my story of how violence silenced my voice. I am convinced that, because my job ultimately is an expressor, is to bring people, help people, who are in one emotional state, move them into another emotional state. That's my job. That's what I'm good at. And so as a TEDx speaker, I wanted to help people know that their voice and their expression is a part of who they are. And for me, that's how I got silenced. That's how sexual violence silenced me. And it may show up differently in other people, but I know for many, many, many girls and two-spirited trans people and boys too, that their voice disappeared. Especially girls, though, their voice like goes, because that's at a time when we're just beginning to express ourselves, and that silences us. So Silent No More was a call to action for people to use their voice, but find out what's keeping their voice from being quiet. And that is including men in the population too. What is making you stay silent? And if it's shame, shame is a big part of all sexual violence on both sides. It silences people, and we cannot be silent anymore about anything. We need to face and address the shame and the pain and the trauma within us. And if we are going to become a healthy people, and that's part of the work I do too, right? That's all about, we'll end violence out in the world if we end the violence that we perpetuate against ourselves. We are violent towards our own feelings, to our own pain. And if we stop that violence against ourselves, we will stop allowing it in the world around us too.
Yeah, we always say that, or I always say that, we're harder on ourselves than we would ever allow anyone to be to us. And you do have to get that headspace, that mindset right, so that you can be the person that you are meant to be, I think.
Hey.
So it's time now for rapid fire. And so I wanted you to talk about a statement that you had in something that I read on your site. And it was, you talk about wellness for self equals wellness for the planet. And I think you elaborated a little bit on the beginning about this, but what were you thinking whenever you made that comment?
Well, yeah, I did touch on it a little bit. I believe that many human beings on the planet have been colonized. They're colonized, meaning that every culture on the planet has been colonized by somebody, and then it gets passed on, and the brutality and the trauma that goes with that just never gets addressed and never gets dealt with. And of course, when a culture chooses not to face a trauma, and that's made up of individuals who can't face that because it's too much, but it never really goes away. It gets passed down our ancestral lines, our lineages. And that means at some point, humanity, one individual person at a time, has to address the pain in their lineage. They have to say, it stops with me, so that I don't pass it on. And when we do that, when we choose to become well in our own bodies, in our own lineages, then that helps the whole. And it also helps us learn to walk gently on the planet. When we walk gently with ourselves, we walk gently on the planet. And we have been very, very bad at walking gently on the planet. We are brutal with the earth. We think of her as a thing to exploit instead of a being that gives us everything that we need to be alive, to be nurtured and fed, clothed, sheltered. She gives us everything. And without her, we are nothing. So if we learn how to honor ourselves, we start to notice and honor the things that really matter. So they go hand in hand. Wellness for self equals wellness for the planet and for all.
Yeah, and I think it's really tied to respect and self-esteem too. You know, if one of the things that you talked about was that your grandmothers and the message that you get, and women tend to oftentimes push down their feelings, try to be strong. And how does that hurt them from, what would your grandmothers tell them?
It's time. It's time to feel. It's time. The grandmothers are always encouraging humanity, and not just women, because men have suppressed many too, but women in this society who are the natural feelers, who have that natural capacity for intuition. All human beings do, but women who have that natural, they have the womb of creation inside their own bodies.
Right.
When women suppress, that's when communities go sideways. Because women are the teachers of healthy expression. And if women are not healthy in our expression, if we have adopted the sickness of devaluing expression of all things feminine, and we are women ourselves, we are feminine ourselves, then that's when big danger zone. We have a lot to offer this world, and if we don't step up into, and maybe that's why the elders, some of the ones who came out of ceremony said, this is going to be led by the women. This next era is going to be led by women and nurturing men and trans and two-spirited non-binary people, right? So those who are walking with the sacred feminine, but it will be led by a lot of women because they clued in quickly that we needed to heal this stuff. We need to heal. We need to allow the feelings to move through us, because like a babies like feel with their entire being. It's like they, right from their perineum to the top of their heads, it's like breath and sobbing and raging and laughing are like a whole body experience. And when does that stop for humans, or for grown-ups? I mean, when does that stop? But we are all, I made a promise to myself that I was going to feel like a child, like a baby. I want to be as clean as a baby. So that means when something ugly wants to come through, I gotta let it pass through me. It doesn't stick around me very long. It goes in, but I wail and cry and howl like no one's business. I'm one of the best at it that I know. and I'm clean. I'm really clean because of it. So when you can allow enormous things to move through you at a rapid rate, life returns to a beautiful, joyful place really quickly. It's when something miserable goes in and gets stuck, where depression and self-loathing and despondency and pain materializes in our world and in our bodies. That's when pain stays and sticks around.
Absolutely. Well, it has flown by. I knew that this would be a tremendous interview. I just learned so much, and I just feel all of your energy. I just love you completely. I just want to share my screen to allow the others that have been moved by your talk today to be able to get your contact information. Those that are listening, I will give the website, but encourage you to please go to my website or to the YouTube and hopefully you have subscribed to my site, but to be able to capture all this information. But now that those that are watching, go ahead and take a screenshot so that you can get the information. Andrea's website is www.andreamenard.com. That's ANDREAMENARD.com. She's on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, EIEIO. She's got everything. So for LinkedIn, Twitter, and LinkedIn and Twitter, you can find her by her name. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you can actually find her by Andrea Menard Music. Again, that's Andrea Menard Music. And I'd like for her just to talk to you a little bit about what you might find when you go to her website.
So what people can find when they go to my website, AndreaMenard.com, is they find everything. They got the whole medicine wheel of Andrea you can find. But one of the things that, if they're looking for is that there's a link for the cards. It's AndreaMenard.com/cards. Very simple, AndreaMenard.com/cards. Mm-hmm. And there is links so they're not able, this is the only copy out there. It's an advanced copy and nobody has them yet, and they won't be in stores for quite a while, but people can pre-buy them today. Awesome. So whenever you get this, you're listening to this, you can pre-buy the cards, and they'll come when they're actually released.
Awesome.
And you can find my music and all those sorts of things on my site.
Perfect. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being an awesome guest. I enjoyed so much being here with you today. You shared great tips, great insights, and some information that probably a lot of us, at least in the US, was not aware of. So I am very pleased to have been educated, informed, and entertained today. As always, I remind everyone to remember that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.